Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night for some of you, just looking at the places that you're dialing in from. Please do keep telling us in the chat where you're calling in from and watching today. We're thrilled that you are all here for this, the last of the calendar year 2024 of our Innovation at Work webinar series from MIT Sloan Executive Education. I'm Peter Hurst, and it's my pleasure to be your host for this session. This is going to be one of our deep dive formats where we will spend a whole hour together in the company of two people who in many ways need no introduction, but are world famous innovators, thinkers, and importantly, doers in the space of entrepreneurship, and now continue to be at the cutting edge and beyond the cutting edge, defining the future of this field. So I am joined today by the infamous and brilliant Bill Aulet and Paul Cheek. Bill is the Ethernet Inventors Professor of the Practice Professor of the Practice at the MIT Sloan School of Management, and also Managing Director of the Martin Trust Center. Paul is a seasoned and experienced. He doesn't look like it to look at him, but a very seasoned and experienced entrepreneur in his own right, who has joined the Sloan School and is the executive director of the Trust Center. And Bill and Paul, between them, have not only really pioneered and created this incredible curriculum and learning experience for our on-campus students and for executive education students here at MIT and around the world. They have also, as the title of today's webinar suggests, been at the cutting edge of bringing the application of AI, artificial intelligence tools, into that work. And they have very generously agreed to spend some time with us, sharing a little bit about that broader context, but really focusing in on what's going on with the applications of AI and generative AI tools in particular. And they will explain that to us, and we'll have some Q&A at the end. So please do feel free to put questions in anytime in the Q&A. We'll get to those in a little bit. And if you want to make any comments or observations in the chat, of course, we also welcome that interactivity and love seeing those as well. So with that, let me hand over to Bill and Paul. I will turn my camera off for a little while, but I'll come back later and help go through your questions and put them to Bill and Paul. So Bill, Paul, over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Peter. And by the way, greetings, everybody. I see you coming in from all over the world. On one hand, I much prefer to have people in person. I love our in-person things like EDP in January, but sometimes that's an inhibitor to getting in touch with people. And so when you get on something like this to get people from all over the world, it's really exciting. So, and I know that there's a ton of people signed up, and I'm surprised there aren't even more, because what we're going to talk about today is just mind-blowing what we're going to show you. Entrepreneurship, well, AI, entrepreneurship is very popular. AI is being applied in lots of different areas. We've seen ChatGPT go from 0 users to 1 million users in 5 days. We've seen extraordinary things done with it. And we've been thinking about how to use data analytics for a long time. But over the past year, we've really focused on how do you apply large language models or generative AI to the entrepreneurial process. And the results have been nothing short of stunning that we're going to show you. If this is what the entrepreneurial process was in the past, we can shrink that down to a small fraction of what it is. And because so much of what you do is looking backwards. And we're going to show you today what that looks like when you use something like Jetpack. And Jetpack is out there because we started 7 years ago working on this, and it's really accelerated in the past year. And we hired someone, thanks to generous donors, Rob Ketterson and Scott Maxwell, who we hired Doug Williams, who's built applications that have been used by one with 65 million users, and Paul Cheek, who's fantastic at managing this and was our hacker in residence. So when you take the entrepreneurial process as it's long, shrink it down to this, the ramifications of that are enormous. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what we're going to start off with that, without bearing the lead, Paul's going to do, what is Jetpack? He's going to show you a demonstration here live. And then we'll talk about what are the ramifications? What is really underneath this? And where is this going? And we're really looking forward to your questions. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Paul. And Paul, tell them about the magic and show them the magic.
Oh, for sure. We're gonna jump right into it. I wanna get us to the demo. I want to show you what Jetpack can do and what it can do for the entrepreneurial process. I was just looking through the chat, the comments, and everybody here was invited to share where you're calling in from. Uh, of the hundreds of people here together with us, I noticed a few in particular. Well, I also noticed those who've come through our programs in the past who've come back to join us. So welcome back. I noticed those calling in from Canada. Mark, Kelly, Aaron, and I know there's a handful of others out there. Those of you from Canada are sure to know who this is. Of course, the one, the only Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky. He's famous for a number of sayings, but the first one that I want to cover is this one right here. I skate to where the puck is going, not where it has been. And that is exactly the standpoint that we take at the Trust Center, MIT's Entrepreneurship Center, when it comes to entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial process. How do we make sure that we're thinking ahead to the future in terms of how businesses will be built, not just historically, not just how they're built today, but how they will be built in the future. When we look to the way that companies will be built in the future, it's very different. Serial entrepreneurs, those who've started companies over the course of time, I can guarantee you that their next company they start will be built much differently than the last. I know that's true of myself. So what does this mean? Where is the puck going? That's what we are going to explore together here today. So for a very long time here at MIT, we've been very good at taking technology or ideas, new research and innovations, and turning them into business plans. And that's through the disciplined entrepreneurship methodology. The disciplined entrepreneurship methodology is one that we teach in all of our programs here. It is the foundation and presents the first principles of entrepreneurship to help increase the odds that any entrepreneur will be successful in the businesses that they create, to have an impact in the world around us with that technology or with these new ideas. This process goes through 6 themes, and I share this with you now because this is the foundation upon which the Jetpack generative AI tool is built. This will be directly relevant to the demo that we do.
I have to show
it all starts with the one key question: who is your customer? We address that question in steps 1 through 5 and step 9. From there, we go to what can you do for your customer? To how does your customer acquire your product? How do you make money off your product? How do you design and build your product? And lastly, how do you scale your business? You'll note that this process is deeply rooted in the customer, who that customer is, that first fundamental question, one that folks who've come through our programs in the past cannot get out of their heads because we say it on repeat over and over and over again. You'll notice that we don't actually get to making money until the 4th theme. And that's because entrepreneurship is about more than just making money. We need to understand who the customer is to create value for them. We always talk about how entrepreneurship is both creating value and capturing value, how you need both to be able to do so sustainably in the long term. We don't talk about product until nearly the end and how to scale. It's all deeply rooted in the customer, and that's what we will look at, how this process is applied. But this process, this disciplined entrepreneurship process and methodology, is one that we've been teaching for years and years and years, over a decade, in fact. And this is a process that we know works. The 10-year longitudinal study that was conducted by Professor Daniela Ruiz-Massot from ETOM and the EPIC lab that they have there looked at the individuals and the companies that came through our Delta V program, where we teach this methodology over the course of the past 10 years. What she found is that 61% of the companies that have come through that program are either still active or have been acquired. And those companies have raised $1 billion. So we know that this process works. For us at the Trust Center and here at MIT, we look not just at the companies that have come through. We believe in this saying: give a person a fish, they'll eat for a day. Teach a person to fish, and they will eat for life. And what that means is we can't look at just the companies that have come through, but we have to look at the individuals who came through leveraging this methodology. What Daniela found was that those participants who came through the program and leveraged the methodology, who learned the process, went on to start 130 additional companies, and those companies raised not $1 billion, but $2 billion. This data shows that the process we teach works. But then the question arose, how do we leverage the new technology? How do we leverage that technology, generative AI, and these new capabilities to make sure that we are, in fact, skating where the puck is going, not just teaching the same material over and over again, but introducing this technology into that process to help accelerate the process. And that's what we are so excited to share with you here today. The reality is that entrepreneurship as a field is changing rapidly. It's changing so rapidly, right? When we look at it, there are more founders pursuing entrepreneurship, a greater percentage of the population based on research and data from the Kauffman Institute and their indicators of entrepreneurship research. There are more people becoming entrepreneurs, but that's not all. Moving forward, we are not only going to see more entrepreneurs, we are also going to see stronger entrepreneurs. Why is that? Why are entrepreneurs getting stronger in their endeavors? Well, it's, of course, because business plans, high quality, comprehensive business plans are becoming commoditized. When we think about a high quality, comprehensive, rigorous business plan, we've traditionally thought of those coming from founders who are either educated, trained, or highly experienced in entrepreneurship. But the new reality, where the puck is going, is a world in which there is universal access to high quality, comprehensive, rigorous business plans. And that should come as no surprise. It's because of artificial intelligence. We can leverage artificial intelligence to produce these new business plans to get technology and ideas out to the market. When we look at that, we've developed this on top of our Orbit platform, which Bill described. Orbit is a software product that we have at the Trust Center, which is developed by Doug Williams, his team, Alfredo and Nab here, that helps to expand the entrepreneurship ecosystem to the digital world. And the newest feature within Orbit is the Jetpack. I want to give you a quick sneak preview before we jump into a live demo of just what's possible here. So, Orbit, let's check it out. You'll see here, I'm going to go in and say, I want to create a company that creates software to help doctors be more efficient. And instantly, it takes me to a page with all 24 of the steps from the Disciplined Entrepreneurship framework. As we go through, it presents 5 different market segments we can go into, and all the data points about those different market segments that we need to take into consideration to determine which market segment will be what we call our beachhead market, that first market segment that we go into. Traditionally, what you're looking at here, we would give entrepreneurs about a week to gather all that data. That data comes from a variety of different sources. And you'll see here, we get all that information in just under a minute. We collect all that information into a very structured matrix. That matrix is straight out of the Disciplined Entrepreneurship framework that we have data to support works. Now, with all this information at our fingertips, while it's not perfect, we have our first draft of the market segmentation, that first part of the business planning process. With all of that information, we can make a decision about where to go next, not rooted only in hypothesis, not rooted only in our own intuition, but instead based on real data points from out in the world. And that's exactly where we want to get entrepreneurs, is making informed decisions, not just decisions at large. These different data points that they can gather are what makes this Jetpack tool so powerful. So the Jetpack tool. The Jetpack tool is something that we leverage to help entrepreneurs accelerate the process and get to decisions much more quickly. So this is, just like entrepreneurship, a team sport. We need everybody looking at the same information and getting on track with what's to come next. So how does Jetpack work? Let's do this. Let's jump into a live demo. I want us to look at this as if we are the entrepreneurs going and creating the business plan. So what does Jetpack look like? I'm going to pull this up. We're going to look and see exactly how Jetpack can enable us as entrepreneurs to go and create that business plan from the ground up. Let's take a look. So you'll see here right within this interface, we can go ahead and create a new idea in our account. We might say, just like I'd said before, I want to help doctors create more software to help them become more efficient. We can go ahead and hit submit, and it will add it directly to our account. We can click into our idea. And again, like I described, you'll see that you have all the different steps here. We'll go into a little bit more detail in terms of how this works. We'll start with market segmentation. Again, figuring out what are the different market segments that we can go into. Unlike asking an LLM, what market segment should I go into? And it gives us a list here. Again, we're collecting all the different data points that we might need. You see here, private practice physicians, hospital administrators, telemedicine providers, healthcare IT departments, and medical device manufacturers. We know not only what market segments are possibilities for us, but we also know things like the benefit in that market segment, the urgency of need, who the end users might be, who our lead customers could be, the willingness to change of end users within that market segment, the frequency with which they make purchases. All of these different data points getting on to the estimated value of an end user, the size of the market, the total addressable market. These data points, again, give us enough information off the bat to begin to figure out which one of these different beachhead markets might be the best fit for us. So for us, we could say, let's start with private practice physicians. I'm going to go in and update my idea and say, from the market segmentation, I'm going to go with private practice. This sidebar on the right side allows us to enter information about our business that we've decided upon based on the information we received from the AI tool, from Jetpack. Now we can go back and say, okay, step 2 is beachhead market. Beachhead market. If we don't know what a beachhead market is, we can switch over and watch a video about what is a beachhead market. We can access a blank version of the matrix if we want to make changes ourselves. And we can go and learn just a little bit more about the beachhead market step. Here, you'll see there are a variety of market segments that we could go into. General practitioners, specialists, pediatricians, psychiatrists, or dentists. And it will actually give us the information we need about each of these subsegments to figure out which one will be the best fit for us. At the end of the day, it will give us a ranking based on the information that it's collected as to which one we should proceed with. And here you'll see that it's given an overall high ranking to general practitioners. The Jetpack AI gives us this information to help us determine where to focus our efforts. So we might say, we're going to say general practitioners are going to be our beachhead market. We can update the idea by dropping that in here. One of the things that you'll notice is that what we put in this sidebar, what we save about our business, carries with us as we move from one step to the next, moving throughout the disciplined entrepreneurship process. So I'll go ahead and save that, and we can go back to our homepage here where we see all the different steps. We can move on with the end user profile, determining who is it that we can create value for most quickly. It will give us a variety of different data points about these general practitioners. You'll see that we have demographics, psychographics, the proxy products that they use, the watering holes where they all gather together. Such a big part of the entrepreneurial process that we teach is primary market research. And we need to know what are the watering holes we should go to connect with different members of our end user profile in our beachhead market. Right? We see a day in the life for these individuals, what their priorities are, their top priority being patient care, and also making sure that they maintain work-life balance. We go and look at the economic buyer to figure out who they are as well. We can continue moving throughout this process, generating the entire business plan. And this process is one that we describe as sequential but nonlinear. So I'll jump ahead just to give you a sense of what else we can imagine from the high-level product specifications. Based on the end user's top priorities, that general practitioner, what they care about most, we'll look and see what sort of a high-level product definition the Jetpack tool creates for us. You'll see as we go in here, it actually came up with a company name and tagline, Med Efficiency Solutions, empowering doctors, enhancing care, with a product name as well, the first product being CareStream. It starts to begin communicating these benefits to us for us to pass on to the end users based on the persona's priority. One of the key elements of the disciplined entrepreneurship process is just how integrated each of these steps are. You'll see here that we have a list of different benefits that we can share with the individuals who we contact through the watering holes in that primary market research process. As we move through this process, we can very quickly ask questions through here. We can request changes of the AI assistant. We can edit the content in line below if we want to make changes. You can also double click right into one of the boxes to edit it to update based on what you and your team discuss about the information that's been presented. Again, I can't stress this enough. This is a tool, so it gives us a first draft of the business plan, but it's our job as entrepreneurs to interpret the information and to make decisions based upon it, which might require that we go back and revise. You can also copy it out to a Word document or to an Excel file. You can copy the content as Markdown, and you can also update multiple versions of the output. So we might say that we want to go back and revise and say, oh, we're actually not going to go with general practitioners anymore. We might instead choose to go with specialists. And if that's the case, it's going to give us a new version, which will allow us to always refer back to an earlier output that the system has given us. Now, as we go back and go through this process, we can always go and view a summary, which takes the output from each of the steps and puts them together into our overall business plan to be able to access. The summary is really important because it puts everything in one place for our entire team to be able to reference. Having all of this just a click away really helps to accelerate the process. Now, we can also go and access the startup tactics, which builds upon disciplined entrepreneurship. Here, we can go in and actually have goals created for us or proposed to us by the Jetpack assistant. We can go through and have the Jetpack assistant create a product roadmap or create a user testing plan, figure out some of the legal considerations, or even develop a financial model. Here, just to give you an idea of what this looks like, we'll look at some of the goals that we might have for our business. Here, you'll see that one of the early goals is to conduct initial market research to identify 5 key pain points for doctors in software usage. We've got key results and KPIs that we'd want to track for this specific goal. And as we move on, you see over the course of 2 weeks, develop a prototype of the software, addressing the top 2 pain points. Get feedback from 10 doctors, and we might say, well, that's not quite enough. We might need to go to 25 doctors to get feedback. You can go in and update these in just an instant. And this gives our team alignment on which direction to go next. Again, for all of these steps, for all the 24 steps and these different tactics, we have output generated for us in an instant. And I would just share with you, I went through this process with a group of executives not too long ago. Every single person in that room, at the end, I said, all right, what are your reactions? What do you think? And it was very easy. It was very easy to get reactions out of people. They say, I just went and built the business plan for a competitor, a new company that's going to enter the marketplace and steal our market share. And I can't believe how quickly it produced a business plan for me. I also can't believe how good it was. So while not perfect, right? And of course, based on these large language models pulling information from all over, there will be errors, there will be issues. But the fact that it gets us going so quickly is what enables entrepreneurs to accelerate this process. I brought this tool, I brought Jetpack to a group of alums who'd come through one of our programs here with Sloan Executive Education. And I showed it to them. And what they couldn't believe was that they'd come through our program and we'd put them through the process of going and gathering all that information. They couldn't believe how much faster it would go using the Jetpack tool. So that's a brief demo of Jetpack and what it can do for you. You think about it, and if you want to go and create a new business from scratch, it can get you going with that business plan in 30 minutes. You can also say, I want to improve my existing business. We've got a startup that we're running today. You can go back and reevaluate the different market segments, redefine the decision-making unit, redesign the sales funnel using this tool to challenge your thinking. So we talk about Jetpack, we talk about this as a generative AI tool. Much of the Jetpack tool has been powered by a company called Stack AI. Stack AI gives us the middleware to connect to the large language models and produce the output that we just looked at in the live demo. If you haven't tried Stack AI yet, I highly recommend giving it a go. So as we look at this, we think about this, what company would you start tomorrow? That's the company I would encourage you to go and drop right on into the Jetpack feature. So what does Jetpack mean for the future of entrepreneurship education? What it means is that we're able to condense the process of experiencing entrepreneurship. For a very long time, we've taught entrepreneurship in what I would refer to as a manual method, right? Go collect the information, build the plan, and then go out to the market to validate that the information you have is correct. This accelerates the process by skipping that first step, by saying, here's all the information from the generative AI tool from Jetpack. Now it's your job to interpret the information, figure out what exactly fits into your plan, and then to go out to the market. We're seeing people move so much faster with this tool, doing what was previously possible in 3 months in just 3 days. That's really exciting for us and for our programs. As we roll out new programs and as we improve upon the existing time-tested, proven programs, we're seeing so much that's possible. I'm seeing teams get to discussions that would have taken them days in just 15 minutes. And that gives me a thrill. It puts a smile on their faces because they're like, oh my gosh, this is so possible. We can get this done. What else does it mean for entrepreneurship education? Bill, I'm going to leave you to speak to some of this, but we think about really a few key areas where entrepreneurs need to prioritize on day zero of starting a new business. And that's what I refer to as the great reprioritization. Really what it means is that in these different programs, these courses where we've tested the Jetpack functionality, we're seeing entrepreneurs prioritize new things on day zero. So the entrepreneurs who've started companies in the past, their next entrepreneurial venture, their next entrepreneurial journey will look very different. Those are the things that we're seeing change. For the future of entrepreneurship, it means that we will have more competitive businesses entering the marketplace. It means that existing organizations, the incumbents, will need a faster pace of innovation internally. It means that we will see more innovation in the marketplace, more new market entrants, and those taking the market share of large established organizations, not over the course of 10 or 20 years, but over the course of just months. And that begs the need for entrepreneurial training and AI training for those individuals working within established organizations and for the startups that were founded, in the past 5 to 10 years to reevaluate the speed at which they are moving in the marketplace because new market entrants will come in and steal that market share. Like I said, for a very long time, we've been leveraging technology and new ideas and helping people turn them into business plans with disciplined entrepreneurship. It also means that with business plans generated for us, while we need to understand the first principles to be able to go and validate that plan and to revise it as we go and learn from the marketplace, it does mean that entrepreneurs will need to focus a little bit more so on the execution skills. And that's where the question arose, how do we take the business plan and turn it into a business? How do we do that leveraging the scrappiness of the entrepreneurial process and limited resources, limited time and limited money? Well, that's where the tactics come in. And that's what I showed you as the second part of the Jetpack tool. The tactics help us to execute upon the business plan, to go bring it out to market and to refine based on what we learn. For us, and we think about the entrepreneurial process, there's a need to skate where that puck is going. And this process is changing. So we want you to sign up for Jetpack. There will be a wait list from which we will pull people off of. You can join the wait list for access to Orbit, but the best way to get access to Orbit is to come join us here on campus in Cambridge to actually give it a try in our programs and to learn the first principles and fundamentals behind what goes into this process. The process is one that you can learn. We know that it can be learned, it can be taught. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is how you apply that process with a team, how you learn that together in a community. We always talk about the 4 H's of entrepreneurship education. The last is the community. How can you leverage tools like these with a community of entrepreneurs together? There's a lot happening here. There's a lot changing, but the ability to do this faster is what makes this such an exciting time for entrepreneurship at MIT. Bill, I'm going to pass it back to you to talk a little bit more about some of the implications that we're seeing.
Thanks, Paul. And I just put in there, this is so fun to do this demo in person because you just see people's eyes just light up and they get bigger, as big as saucers sometimes. They're like, whoa, because
Bill, the thing on that, it gives me such joy, right? We go around the world and we talk about Jetpack and bringing Jetpack into the entrepreneurial process. Literally, there will be people sitting in the front row going like this in disbelief, and people in the back row who've gotten up out of their chairs because they don't believe what's in front of them, and they need it, and they need it now.
Yeah. And that's what we can't see you, and it's not as much fun, to be quite honest. When you see this in person, if you've ever built a company, if you've ever even built a business plan, the power that this has is amazing. And I just want to talk about that briefly. Paul's talked about it to clarify what Jetpack is, because we're not rewriting a large language model. We actually can use any large language model, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, even Gronk, if anybody ever used that. We're just building off that and the data that they scrape. That's the starting point. And you could say, well, can't we just do what we did here by just asking ChatGPT these questions? And the answer is no. What we've done is we have actually first put the Stack AI layer in there that Paul mentioned, because ChatGPT Pro does certain things well, Gemini does other things, and it protects your data in a different way, and you might want to use Claude. We have flexibility, a level of abstraction between them. So we're not dependent on them, but we're totally leveraging the large language model advancements and not recreating those. So Stack AI is a key part of it. But the real gold here is the well-defined and integrated prompt library. Again, Paul talked about, we've been doing this, he said, for 10 years. Actually, the original Disciplined Entrepreneurship is now 20 years old, right, what we've been trying. We did the study over a 10-year time period, and we know that it works, and Scotland's done a study, and Northern Ireland's done a study. We know that it works. So we're very confident in our process, and it's been iterated, and it's a very engineering approach. It's not an algorithm, but it's well defined to know what prompts do you ask. So you could try to recreate that prompt library, and it would be extraordinarily difficult to do that. What Jetpack does is it has that library built by Paul and Doug Williams and his team, and that's where we've invested probably $1 million so far into that. But the other part of it is it's a really nice user interface, and that's what you have here. So when you say, oh, I want to use it, what's the difference between, I want to use AI, generative AI, to help build my business plan? What Jetpack has done is it's giving you a whole library of all that we've learned, so that it's prompting that, in prompting you in ways that we know work, that we know dramatically improve your odds of success, and that does it with a nice user interface. So not recreating LLMs, just riding that wave that they're already doing and using a layer of abstraction so that we can do whatever. It's the prompt library that's integrated and super well defined because of all that we have from these things that we've worked on and taught thousands of entrepreneurs over 2 decades, and tested over and over again and iterated, and a nice user interface that Doug Williams has put in place. And I see some of the questions really important here. The data, who controls the data? And the way that this works is this data is not going back to the LLMs. Where if you do something, it's a walled garden. You get to keep it. Our students get to keep it. It's not going back in there. You get to keep and go forward, and it protects that. So you have a walled garden. So when we use this, we're clear on what Jetpack is and what it's not. It is simply fantastic secondary market research. We always talk about it's like having 100 MIT undergraduates there, and if you ask them the right question, they'll get whatever question you ask them, they'll get you a response immediately. They're doing incredible research. What it is not is it's not forward-looking, and this comes down to what is entrepreneurship going to become. Let me say, you must use AI if you're going to be an entrepreneur. As we always talk about, you're not going to lose your job to AI. And we talked about this with computers. We talked about it with spreadsheets early in my career. You're going to lose your job to someone who knows how to use AI better than you do. And in the case of entrepreneurs, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't use AI, you're probably going to lose to someone very, very soon who knows how to use AI better than you. It reduces their cost. It gives them a much more robust and fast way to come up with hypothesis, test that hypothesis, run through these first principles that we know work. But it does not give you the answer. Let's be clear. Just like all these 100 MIT undergraduates can come up with an answer. And now it's up to you as the entrepreneur to ask the right question above and beyond and interpret those answers when they come and think creatively and connect the dots. And it puts an extraordinarily high emphasis now on primary market research, going and talking to customers. How do you adjust the outcome that you get from it? Because anybody can go into Jetpack now and do that. But we also say
Bill,
Jetpack alone.
one of the things that I always on that point find interesting is, people say, oh, all right, well, I've got this, right? And you could come into a class with homework assignment that says, here's the beachhead market, here's what Jetpack output, right? And I always tell people they need to be able to defend the data that they get out of orbit. They don't need to go do the research on all the different market segments, but when they choose one, for example, they need to be able to defend every data point, because you can't go into an investor to raise money and when they ask you where you got the information, say, oh, well, Orbit told me, so it must be right. The Jetpack told me. It's like, no. You've got to have data to be able to defend the information that Orbit provides, that the Jetpack spits out.
And that's where the primary market research becomes so important now, and it becomes the differentiator. Because now entrepreneurship, when we said was doing all this, a lot of that was low value add stuff. Now the stuff that's left is, can you go out and get those insights by looking forward, by talking to customers? All that time you got didn't mean you just got the same answer in 1/100th of the time. What it means, just like when we had spreadsheets, is you can get an answer and now you can discuss it and say, what do we do? Oh, okay, how do we adjust that? And you can do multiple iterations and look at different scenarios. But let me say number 5 here says, we encourage our students not only they must use Jetpack in class, but they also must show their work. But then we also encourage them to still use ChatGPT on the side to do other things. We're not saying this is the only tool. You're trying to get that, find out other things, cross-check and the like. And the last thing I'll say is, as in the entire disciplined entrepreneurship process and startup tactics, these are tools to build. It's a process, and this is a tool to help build team coherence. You want everybody going in the same direction and understanding, why are we going in this direction? What are the assumptions in this? And if they change, then we can come back and do another one, another strategy, another implementation plan. So again, what we've learned so far is it dramatically shrinks that. What are you going to do with that time? You're going to do more iterations, just like you do if you have a spreadsheet. You don't just do the calculations, I got the calculation faster. You try different what-if scenarios. You go out and talk more to customers. You build your team even stronger. You creatively connect different dots by finding out, well, what other questions does that create? And let me go look up things. And ultimately, entrepreneurship is getting to the point where it's about forming and testing hypotheses quickly. And that's the nature of entrepreneurship. So, as Paul said, entrepreneurship is fundamentally and forever changing because of this. Not just entrepreneurship education, the way we teach. We've got to change it dramatically. We just had an offsite earlier this month, and we just talked this morning about how we're going to change our programs, because it's not the same. The world just changed. But it's also for entrepreneurship itself. These tools are going to be fundamental tools, just like a spreadsheet is, just like a computer is, just like a word processor. And if you don't use them, you will not be competitive, I believe, in a matter of months, not years, as Paul said. And this is just, the nature of the world. Like Bob Dylan said, he who is not being born is busy dying. The world continues to change, go faster and faster and faster. And entrepreneurs are the ones who embrace that change. So this should come as no surprise. This is, if you believe in anti-fragility, then you should be embracing AI plus entrepreneurship, in every way possible. So with that, there's a lot of questions. Can we go to the questions live? Is that possible, Peter? I know they're in there. You can read them, or we can do them calling the people.
Yeah, there's so many coming in that what I'll try to do is summarize a few of the questions into sort of into meta questions, if you like. So, can we tackle the sort of biggest potential issue in the room that people have been asking throughout, which is
the Celtics, are the Celtics going to win the NBA championship again this year, Peter? The answer to that is very simple. Yes, they are.
Well, yeah, and that might answer somebody's question about, how do I pay to come to one of these courses? Is just put your money on the Celtics. But
wait, Peter, I think the biggest question in the room is, how do we get Bill Aulet's sweater?
No, this is
Yes.
Dolly. This is called Christmas tacos, everybody. You see that?
That's very good. No, but slightly seriously, I think the biggest set of questions that I saw coming in had to do with, the same old thing. What's the validity of? I mean, you mentioned that you've got to check all the workings, of course, but what's your sense, having now been using the tool, and of what is the validity of the data sources that are being pulled in from the elements in other ways, and indeed, can you supplement with particular data sources that you might have access to that are not publicly on those systems?
Okay, let me go first on this, Paul. And then, by the way, it's also Jorge Cardona puts up there are a ton of custom GPTs for entrepreneurship at the GPT store. Well, if one of them is better than this, Jorge, we're going to use it. But I'm very confident that everyone we looked isn't even close, because it comes down to two things: prompt libraries and the user interface. And we can go across the LLMs. So this is not like you can build a small prompt library and say you're doing this, but the sophistication of this is extraordinary. So let me just hit that question head on, Peter. Is the answer you get from Jetpack correct? No, the answer is no, it is not. Is any business plan completely correct? No, there has never been a business plan that is completely correct. That is not the right question. The question is whether it's useful or not. There's never been a business plan, Peter. Jeff Bezos' business plan, Steve Jobs, there's never a business plan. But what you're doing is you're coming up with a hypothesis and a plan to greatness, and this helps you dramatically. So again, I want to go back to the point. The question isn't whether a business plan, goes to Dwight D. Eisenhower. People said, well, plans are wrong. And he said, yes, plans are wrong, but the planning process is invaluable. And to be able to have a tool that looks at different scenarios, what if the price of oil goes up? What if inflation goes up? What if our assumptions on the market is beyond valuable? It is invaluable. And if you don't have this type of scenario AI tool to look at it, your plans to go into it are not going to work. I mean, think of, like, if you're a coach of a sport, and you're the greatest coach in the world, you're Red Auerbach. You have a plan when you go into the game. You know that it's not going to work, but everything's not going to play out the way you want. But you must have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you're surely going to lose. Or you might get unbelievably lucky. And this helps that planning process to build the team, to give you more insights, to try different things, and to come up with that path to greatness. Secondly, what is it? What is the data sets that's being fed? First of all, it's getting fed from the LLMs. We scrape all that. Is that US centric? Turns out that there's a lot more data in the US than there is elsewhere. But that doesn't mean that we haven't had people using it who have found it unbelievably useful in other places. Like, I was just on the phone this week with someone from Germany who was just going on about how They don't want this to go out there. I'm like, well, would you tell people how useful it is? And they're like, I don't want anyone to know that I'm using this. It's such a competitive advantage to me. So, Paul, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I double down on that. I think the other thing is that we're also feeding this all the information that we have at the Trust Center, right? The data is imperfect. There is no question about that. And I don't think anybody out there will find a tool that produces perfect data, right?
Never will
I
be.
think we will, as a society, work towards that. But if you can find a tool that produces perfect data, please send it to us. I would be very, very interested, right? This helps us to accelerate the process, which is far better than having nothing at all, than doing it manually. And it does require that sometimes we gut check the information that we are getting. It does require that once we've made up decisions and we are moving forward in the planning process and investing more of our time, energy, and attention to bringing that plan out to the world, that we go and do some of the research manually ourselves, just so that we can ensure we can defend the data upon which we are making those decisions. But truly, it is so much better than not having anything at all. And the other thing I would say is, yes, we can go and when I go to schools around the world, accelerators, incubators, and people say, oh, go ask that question to ChatGPT. The challenge that I have with that is it's very good ad hoc to complement something like this. But if we rely solely on ad hoc requests to ChatGPT or to Bard or to these other LLMs, what we are losing are the first principles of the process. And so when I think about it, Bill, yes, I would second everything that you say. I'd also say it's pulling it together in a process, in a framework that we have data to show actually works and increases the odds of success for any new business. And lastly, I would say, it's not only pulling from the LLMs, we are also pulling from the deepest depths of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship, what we've learned teaching entrepreneurship for a very long time. And that is from the thousands and thousands and thousands of articles that we have written based upon the most frequently asked questions that we receive from entrepreneurs. When entrepreneurs come to the Trust Center and they ask us a question about a challenge that they are facing, we catalog the responses to that. And that's all feeding in here alongside our methodology that we know works, and of course, the data from the LLMs. So while it is not perfect, it is far better than nothing.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. And can I build on that? Yeah, sort of the other set of questions, which I'm sure you could answer equally comprehensively, were about kind of uniqueness and comprehensiveness. On the uniqueness front, and these two things I think probably overlapping concepts, but two dimensions to that. One, how do you know that actually what the system, what Jetpack is suggesting to you is not literally ripped off from something which is already out there and might get you sued? Or alternatively, if you've got 1,000 or 10,000 entrepreneurs all putting essentially the same idea in or question in for a business, will they get back 1,000 different suggestions, or is it coming up with sort of like the one best?
I'll go first again, Paul, then I'll let you go. First of all, why are we comfortable with this? I'm just going to reiterate, this is why we're comfortable, because 20 years of trying stuff out and iterating and testing it and getting rigorous data analysis. Most of what comes out in entrepreneurship is people telling stories. It's storytelling hour. And you ask, what's your N? It means how many people did you study to come up with this? And their N is, well, this is my experience in 3 startups. N equals 3 is not N equals 10 years of longitudinal data. And that's what we've done. So our prompts are very, very tight. And it doesn't give you 100%. We know that from this, the odds go up significantly. So it forces you to do that. So that's how I would answer that question. And again, if someone, right now, you have to add something beyond the AI tool. Anybody can go in and just do this and ask, so what is that? Again, that's creativity, that's building teams, that's doing primary market research, that's intelligently formulating the hypotheses and testing those hypotheses outside of it. This just gets you, it doesn't get you over the the 20-foot bar to be successful, but it gets you 19 feet almost instantaneously. And now you have to do those last steps to get there. Paul, I'll turn it over to you.
I would say, different people can put the same thing in and get slightly different output. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be reasonably similar, right? It's not going to send you off in a crazy different direction, or it's not working, it's not doing its job. I believe that two entrepreneurs could independently begin building a business with the same idea today. And if we were to check back in with them a month later, a year later, they would wind up most likely doing things very differently. That could be completely differently or slight variations, because so much of it is rooted in what they actually do out in the world, the hypotheses like Bill was talking about that they define and that they test, and the customers who they seek to serve. So yes, you could start with the same thing, but I do think it begs the need for that greater sense of creativity on day zero for any new company that's starting out. We should be thinking about those challenges that are more pressing problems for society at large that we can go out, take and have an impact in the world with. And so, it's all about how you interpret it, the discussions that you have as a team coming together, and then what you do out in the real world that will inform which direction you wind up going if you were to start with at the same place out of the Jetpack tool today.
And that was true before, Paul. There's multiple paths.
Absolutely.
In EDP, in some of our programs, we give people exactly the same hypothesis, and both of them can get, there are many paths to success. There are also many paths to failure. And what we're trying to do is figure out what are those paths to success, right?
For sure.
Great. Thank you both for answering those two big categories of questions. And the other big category of questions, not surprisingly, is how can we try it out for ourselves? You mentioned signing up for the wait list to potentially be able to get access, but really this is a tool that currently you're using in your on-campus courses and exec ed online courses. So perhaps, Charlotte, if we could just bring up for people's information when those are coming up, and I could invite Paul and Bill to just describe a bit. I think the first next, if you're keen and anxious to get this, the Entrepreneurship Development Program, January 19th to 24th is coming up pretty fast. Could you guys just describe a little bit about how you're planning to use these tools in these upcoming programs? And you mentioned in particular the importance of human factors. In person, on campus in January would be a great opportunity. That's my plug, but what are your thoughts?
So let me just say, first of all, we're not a software company, we're an educational institution. And we developed this because MIT's mission is to create a body of knowledge to address the world's greatest challenges, and that's what we do. And so we're not in a situation where we're selling this. It's in private beta now. Whatever way we can most impact the world, that's what we're going to do. We use it with our students every day here now, and MIT students. And I put up there a link on if you Google MIT entrepreneurship Jetpack, you'll find a 13-minute video by someone named Sherry Von Cleve that she put up using it for her own business. And I added that in the link. I would encourage everybody to go look at that. You'll have more time to look at it. If we just open this up to the world right now, we'd be overwhelmed. We're just not in that business. So we're in private beta now. Paul will give it how we can do that. We're trying to figure out, should we open source this? How do we handle this going forward? But it's our goal to help solve the world's greatest challenges. If you want to get it early, you can come to one of these programs. We use it in the programs. And we will continue to use it in increasing, and it will continue to get stronger and stronger as well. Paul, do you want to add on?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like it has fundamentally changed these programs for the better to help people get the most value out of them. Entrepreneurship Development Program in January. This is our flagship entrepreneurship program that Bill and I teach. This is a full week, nonstop, back to back. It's a long week, that's for sure. You get so much out of this. We go through the entire discipline entrepreneurship process in just 6 days. Now, leveraging the Jetpack tool, starting from Sunday all the way through to the final presentations on Friday. Going and developing a business from the ground up. This is such a phenomenal opportunity to come in and to say, we are going to start with nothing. And you will be truly amazed at what you produce by the time the program wraps up at the end of the week. This program, you come in, you form teams, you spend the week building this business and the business plan before you pitch it to judges come Friday. But don't worry, you will have all the help of ourselves and our team, as well as expert coaches who we bring in who've been through this process before, who've used the Jetpack each and every evening. The Entrepreneurship Development Accelerator is a similar program, but that allows you to work on your own business, be it a startup that you're currently building, be it a corporate venture, something new that you are creating within an established organization. For entrepreneurs, I think both classes are excellent opportunities. If you are thinking about a product that you're developing within a company, the EDA program can be best fit. We also offer a program called Disciplined Entrepreneurship, which we usually run twice a year. This is a shorter format course that will help you to get a lot of value out of the content of Disciplined Entrepreneurship as a framework or methodology. So regardless of which of these programs might be best for you, we hope that you'll come join us here in Cambridge or online for one of these programs to leverage the Jetpack tool.
Thank you very much, Paul and Bill. There's a lot of questions, and as Charlotte said at the beginning, we're just about out of time, so we haven't been able to get to those. I'm sure that many of the people that were watching this live event and maybe the recording are people that we, and particularly you, Bill and Paul, already know, and you might be hearing from them. But even if you've been before, let me encourage you to take a look at the courses that Bill and Paul were just talking about. We firmly believe at MIT there is still, even with the amazing online tools like this that are being developed, that coming and getting together in person and really working with these ideas and these materials has no equal in terms of the impact that it can have for you. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Paul, for the amazing leadership that you have in this field, for this latest chapter in developing these kinds of incredibly powerful tools and keeping driving the innovation. And thank you for spending this hour with us and telling us about your work in this space. And hopefully some of the folks watching will get to come and hear from you directly with us on campus in January or in June. So with that, thank you all for joining us. It's been great to see all the energy and ideas coming in from all around the world. And once again, Bill, Paul, huge thanks to you, and take care.